Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really jumping into something fascinating. It's an ancient wisdom text, the Rathavinītasutta.
That's right, often called the chariot relay discourse.
And it's got this powerful analogy, hasn't it, about, well, spiritual progress, but maybe more broadly, about understanding the real point of a journey.
Exactly. It helps distinguish the goal from, the steps you take to get there. It's easy to confuse those.
So our mission today really is to unpack this incredible conversation between two very renowned figures from back then.
Yeah, and through their dialogue, we get this really profound insight into what reaching a goal actually means, especially for things like personal growth or any kind of long-term effort.
You should get a clearer framework for thinking about complex paths and hopefully maybe a few aha moments about your own goals.
I think so. It certainly makes you think.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Where does this all begin?
It starts in Rajagaha, specifically a place called Veafana, Kalinda. That's where the Bhagavan the Buddha is staying at the time.
Right, and then this group of monks shows up.
Yes, exactly. They're coming from Jatibu, just finished their rainy season retreat. They visit the Bhagavan.
And he asks them a question.
He does. He asks them basically, who among you is really held in high regard? Who do you all admire?
And they have an answer ready.
Oh, immediately. They point to one monk, Puṇṇa Mantāṇiputta.
Ah, Putta, the central figure, besides Sāriputta later on.
That's him. And they don't just name him, they list his qualities. It's quite something. 10 specific points.
Okay, let's unpack this. This is quite a list of commendations for Putta, isn't it? It paints a very complete picture of a highly regarded individual.
It really does. They say he's a few wishes and speaks about having few wishes. So he embodies it and teaches it.
That's interesting, not just having the quality, but sharing it.
Exactly. Contented and speaks of contentment. Secluded and speaks of seclusion. Unsullied and speaks of unsulliedness. Energetic and speaks of energy.
Wow, okay. Keep going.
Endowed with virtue and speaks of virtue. Concentration and speaks of concentration. Wisdom and speaks of wisdom. Liberation and speaks of liberation.
And the last one.
Endowed with the knowledge and vision of liberation. And it speaks about that, too. It's like he's a living embodiment and transmitter of these ideals.
It sounds like he wasn't just, sitting quietly being virtuous. He was actively involved.
Precisely. They also add that he's an instructor, an explainer, a persuader, encourager, and inspirer for his companions. A real guide.
So a very well-respected figure, clearly. Now, how does Sāriputta enter the picture?
Well, here's a fascinating bit. As this is happening, Yasma Sāriputta, another major figure, maybe the chief disciple known for wisdom, is sitting nearby.
Oh, so he overhears this whole conversation.
He does. He hears all this high praise for Putta, and his internal reaction is recorded. He thinks essentially, wow, what a gain for Putta to be praised like this by his peers in front of the teacher and for the teacher to agree.
That shows humility and respect from Sāriputta himself.
Absolutely. And then he has this thought, I hope I get to meet him someday. I'd love to talk with him. It sets up this anticipation.
And things work out, I gather.
They do. Later on, the Bhagavan travels from Rajagaha to Sāvatthī to Jetavana and at the Peaches Park.
A famous location in the text.
Very famous. And Yasmaputin hears the Bhagavan is there, so he packs his own things and heads to Sāvatthī too.
So they're converging in the same place.
Right. Put goes, meets the Bhagavan, gets a Dhamma talk, feels inspired, and then decides to go off to meditate in a nearby grove called Andhavana.
Okay. And Sāriputta finds out.
Yes, another monk tells Sāriputta, hey, that monk Puṇṇa you admire so much, he's here. He just went off to Andhavana to meditate.
What's fascinating here is Sāriputta's immediate and eager reaction. He doesn't wait, does he?
Not at all. The text says he grabs his sitting mat and follows Putta like a shadow, just sets off straight away to find him. He's seeking him out specifically for this conversation. It really highlights the depth of respect.
So he finds Puṇṇa meditating under a tree. Does he interrupt?
No, very respectfully. He just finds a spot nearby and sits down himself, waiting for Putta to finish his meditation.
Patience and respect. Okay, so Puṇṇa finishes meditating. What happens then?
Sāriputta approaches him. They exchange polite greetings, the usual courtesies. And then Sāriputta gets right to it. He asks this really startling question.
The core question.
Yeah. Yes. Friend, he asks, is the holy life lived under the Blessed One for the sake of purity of conduct?
And Putta's answer is?
Just no.
Just no. That must have been surprising. Purity of conduct seems pretty fundamental.
Right. It seems like an obvious yes. So Sāriputta probes further.
Okay, well, Is it for purity of mind?
And Putin says,
No.
purity of view,
No.
purity of overcoming doubt,
No.
purity of knowledge and vision of path and non-path,
Still no.
purity of knowledge and vision of practice.
No.
Okay, one more. Purity of knowledge and vision itself.
Again, Putin replies, no, friend. Here's where it gets really interesting. If it's not for any of these purities, what is the holy life for? This seems counterintuitive at first glance.
Totally. You can imagine Sāriputta's confusion, even though he's incredibly wise. He's laying out all these key stages, these vital aspects of the path.
So Sāriputta basically asks the obvious follow-up, then.
Yeah.
What is the purpose, friend? Why are we doing this?
Exactly. And Puṇṇa gives his definitive answer. For the sake of unclinging final liberation, friend, anupādāparinibbāna. That's the purpose.
Unclinging final liberation. Okay, but Sāriputta wants to be absolutely clear.
Yes, he's very precise. He asks two clarifying questions. First, is unclinging final liberation the same thing as any of these purities? Puṇṇa says no.
Okay, second question.
All right, then is unclinging final liberation something completely separate from or existing apart from these purities? And again, Puṇṇa says no.
Ah, so it's not the purities themselves, but it's also not totally unrelated to them?
Precisely. They're connected. But the connection isn't one of identity or complete separation. It's a progression, which leads perfectly into the analogy.
Right. Puṇṇa realizes an analogy is needed here.
Yeah, he says something like, look, I'll give you an analogy. Sometimes analogies help discerning people grasp the meaning.
And this is the chariot relay.
This is it, the Rathavinīta. He sets up this scenario. King Pasenadi of Kosala is in Sāvatthī, but he needs to get to another city, Saketa, urgently.
Okay, an urgent royal journey.
So, to make this happen quickly, they arrange 7 relay chariots along the route. Rathavinītāni.
Like stagecoaches, almost.
Sort of, yeah. The king gets in the first chariot at Sāvatthī and rides it to the first relay point.
Then he switches.
Exactly. He gets out of the first chariot, leaves it there, and gets into the second chariot. Rides that to the next relay point.
And keeps doing this.
Yes. Repeats the process. Chariot 2 gets him to 3, 3 to 4, and so on, until he finally arrives at Saketa using the 7th chariot.
Okay, the journey is complete. What's the point Puṇṇa draws from this?
The point comes when you ask, how did the king get to Saketa? If people asked him, what would he say?
Well, he arrived using the 7th chariot, the last one.
Correct. He arrived by means of the 7th chariot. However, each chariot before that served a specific purpose.
Right, to get him to the next chariot.
Exactly. Chariot 1 was for the sake of reaching chariot 2. Chariot 2 was for the sake of reaching chariot 3, and so on. None of the first 6 were for reaching Saketa directly.
Ah, I see. They were essential means, but not the final means.
Precisely. This raises an important question. How often do we mistake a chariot, a necessary step or tool, for the ultimate destination itself in our own lives and pursuits?
That's a really good question. Getting stuck on a particular stage or skill, thinking that's the end goal.
Yeah, mastering one step and forgetting it's meant to lead somewhere else.
So Puṇṇa then directly applies this analogy back to the spiritual path, to those purities Sāriputta listed.
He does, very explicitly. He lays it out step by step, just like the chariots. Purity of conduct, sīlavisuddhi, is for the sake of purity of mind, cittavisuddhi.
Okay, so conduct supports the mind, chariot 1 to chariot 2.
Right. Then purity of mind is for the sake of purity of view, cittavisuddhi.
Mind leads to right understanding. Got it.
Purity of view is for the sake of purity of overcoming doubt, Andhavana.
Understanding clears up confusion. Makes sense.
Purity of overcoming doubt is for the sake of purity of knowledge and vision of path and non-path, Puṇṇa. Seeing clearly what is and isn't the path.
Okay, this is getting more specific now, discerning the right way forward.
Then, that purity is for the sake of purity of knowledge and vision of the practice itself, really understanding the journey you're on.
Knowing the how.
And that purity is for the sake of purity of knowledge and vision, a broader, deeper insight.
The 6th chariot, reaching the 7th relay point, perhaps?
You could see it that way. And finally, this purity of knowledge and vision, the 7th chariot, if you will, is for the sake of unclinging final liberation.
Anupādāparinibbāna.
Reaching Saketa, the ultimate destination.
That's the one.
So, the holy life, Puṇṇa concludes, is lived for that final liberation. Each purification is like a chariot, absolutely necessary to get you to the next stage, an essential means, but not the end in itself.
So what does this all mean for us? It's about seeing the bigger picture of a journey rather than getting stuck on any single stage.
Exactly that. It's about understanding the purpose of each phase.
Right.
Why are you doing this particular practice? What is it meant to lead to? Keeping that final destination in view.
It prevents mistaking the tools for the outcome.
Perfectly put.
Okay, so after Put gives this incredibly clear explanation using the analogy, what's Sāriputta's reaction?
Well, first, Sāriputta asks Put his name. Maybe he didn't catch it earlier or just wants to confirm. He learns it's Puṇṇa Mantāṇiputta. Then Sāriputta is just filled with admiration. He exclaims, "Wonderful, marvelous, how Yasmo Puṇṇa Mantāṇiputta has explained these deep, deep points of wisdom."
High praise.
Very high praise. He even says it's a huge gain for anyone in the holy life to get to meet Putin, to attend upon him. He says even if they had to carry him around on a cushion on their heads.
Wow, that's quite an image. Shows the level of respect.
He really does. But then the exchange flips.
Oh, Puṇṇa responds.
Yes, Puṇṇa then asks Sāriputta his name, and Sāriputta replies, my name is Sāriputta, friend, though my given name was Upatissa.
And Puṇṇa's reaction?
He's equally astonished. He says something like, wow, we didn't realize we were talking to the venerable Sāriputta, the teacher's great disciple, likened to the mother who bears the child.
So Puṇṇa didn't know who he was talking to either.
Apparently not. And he adds, kind of humbly, if we'd known it was you, we wouldn't have spoken so extensively.
Ah, that's charming. Mutual respect and maybe a little awe on both sides.
Absolutely. Puṇṇa then praises Sāriputta right back, saying he asked such deep, penetrating questions, and he echoes Sāriputta's sentiment.
It's a great gain for anyone to get to meet and attend upon Sāriputta.
So a really beautiful moment of mutual recognition and admiration between these two giants.
Yes.
And the text concludes by saying, thus, these two great Nagas, Naga meaning like a great being, a spiritual champion, rejoiced in each other's well-spoken words.
A perfect ending, signifying that deep connection and shared understanding of the Dhamma, the teaching.
It really is. It shows wisdom isn't just solitary. It's also about dialogue, clarification, and mutual appreciation.
So wrapping up this deep dive into the Rathavinītasutta, it really shows us that wisdom often lies in, well, understanding the purpose behind each step we take, right? Not just taking the steps.
Yeah, not mistaking the step, the chariot, for the actual destination. It's a powerful reminder for, anything we pursue to regularly check our compass, our efforts truly leading where we ultimately want to go.
It prompts a good question for all of us, I think. What are the chariots, the necessary stages in your own journey? Whether it's learning something new, your career, personal growth.
Mm-hmm. And are you clear on where you're ultimately headed? Or have you maybe gotten a bit too focused on just reaching the next relay station, mistaking a chariot for the finish line?
Definitely something to think about, a great place to leave it.